I'm Renee Scalacci, and I'm going to be your moderator this evening. I want to thank you all for attending. Your input is tremendously important through this process, and I know that Metropolitan Pacific and Claret West, who are the project developers, want to know what you think about the project. We'll begin with a 30-minute presentation, and given that the library closes at 9 p.m., we would ask, since we have so many folks here tonight, that you ask one question at a time, and then if time permits, we will circle back with you and let you ask additional questions. Also, if you are not comfortable asking your question, we have folks in the back that will take cards from you if you want to write out your question. And you can see Tanya in the back if you'll hold up the card. Thank you. You can write your question, and then the question can be read, and we will get it answered. We talked about the presentation, and we'll have time for Q&A. I want to introduce you to the team. We have Sho Shigematsu, Jason Long from the Office of Metropolitan Architecture, and they're the design architects. Von Tilburg from Von Tilburg, Banvard, and Soderberg, local architects. Tiffany Beamer from Olin, landscape architects. Matt Jacobs from Biederman Redevelopment Ventures, public space programming, and they also management consultants. John Warfel from Metropolitan Pacific, the lead developer, and the co-developer is Frank Steffen with Claret West Development. He's here this evening as well. That's our team members. And John will give you an overview of the project and the process that the team's gone through thus far. And then we'll open it up after our 30-minute presentation to some Q&A. John?
Thank you, Renee. The Plaza at Santa Monica, this project, is a direct response to a 6-year public process and the public objectives that emerged from it. By 2006, the success of the promenade and the development of the housing in the area were indicators that the downtown had been revitalized. In 2007, the city began assembling the 4th and Arizona site in order to provide a future focal point for downtown, as well as a new parking resource. A majority of the site was, and still is, occupied by surface parking lots, and offers little in the way of pedestrian amenities and other benefits the city was looking for. Oops, I think I went the wrong way. Nope, sorry. In 2010, a set of guiding principles for the site was adopted based on public input that had been gathered while the site was assembled. As the visioning process continued, key design objectives were articulated during the process. These public objectives are the development of programmable gathering space, ground floor retail, restaurant, and cultural space, a mix of uses such as retail, cultural, office, hotel, and residential, exceptional architecture and sustainable design, public access to views, a minimum of 339 public parking spaces, a highly flexible development approach, and the incorporation of concepts identified in the Downtown Specific Plan. During the Downtown Specific Plan workshops, additional objectives were identified, and they're listed here. I won't read them through, except just, again, open space, circulation and shared parking, a cultural institution, public art, and affordable housing. And then in the Downtown Specific Plan framework, active ground floor uses, a new alley to cut the block in the middle, ground level pedestrian paths, and focusing taller portions of any development on the southern end of the site, which actually means in the middle of the block, because it's a double block. All of Santa Monica's blocks are 1 block deep and 2 blocks wide, as well as a mix of uses that will activate the plaza 17 hours per day, 7 days a week. I think only the city could come up with 17 hours a day. So those are the objectives that were articulated by the public, and we have brought together a world-class design team that carefully considered these principles and created a project that truly responds to the site, the needs articulated by the community, and Santa Monica's unique climate and culture. Sho Shigematsu will now give you an overview of his team and the design approach for the project. Sho?
Thank you. Good evening. I'm representing OMA, which is a design architect. So just a brief introduction of our activities and how our focus is kind of generated throughout the world in different projects. So our office is located all over the world so that we have the local knowledge and exposure to hopefully address diverse urban conditions, also including Santa Monica. This is one of our work. This is a high-rise, a strange high-rise in the heart of Beijing. It's headquarters for a national TV station in China, which I was personally responsible for design. What's unique is that, of course, the form is unique, but because of its cantilevered shape, at the ground, you actually have open space for public, such as this. This is a concert hall in Portugal that has two large windows on either side of the concert hall, as you can see. But what's unique is that not only the building, inside the building is very publicly used, like this. The whole building is surrounded by Travertine Plaza that is connected to the old center, as you can see, old park in the center with the obelisk. We designed this park so that it entices usage and obviously for people to stay. Obviously, it's a hardscape because there is a softscape in front of it, so it has a complementary relationship. So it houses this kind of events daily, and also they even do a concert during summer, using the building as a backdrop. This is the Seattle Public Library, again at the downtown Seattle. It's entirely publicly open. Sorry, there's a kind of technical issues. Why don't we pause for 1 second? So this is a library, also being very focused on continuity from the downtown activities to inside, all this kind of big living room-like atrium space. As you can see, there's actual green planters inside of the space, but also a carpet that creates a much more intimate landscape-like space. This is a Cornell University architecture, art, and planning extension that is attached to a historical building in the campus. As you can see, the roof garden. And there's a huge flexible studio, as well as auditorium and the dome space that houses a lot of public activities. So you can see our buildings are always trying to integrate the public space to the building, and which we are also trying to do here. And also we are urban planners. This is one of the very small example, but this is a recent project we are doing for city of Hoboken in New Jersey for post-Sandy improvements to create more resiliency. So we made a comprehensive urban water management strategy. And what we wanted to emphasize is, of course, we took a lot of public we did a lot of public outreach, and we used so many tools to communicate that, and then engage the public to reflect and manage a lot of different interests and stakeholders. And of course, to integrate the design of the public space to the resiliency. So I would like to talk about the design approach. So the public process and our response to it represent the fundamental difference between the Plaza at Santa Monica and the other private developments, we think. Our primary objective is to deliver a community, is to deliver community destination that is fully integrated into Santa Monica and incorporates all of the key public objectives, as John said. So we have achieved this by focusing on the public realm and maximizing open space while maintaining programmatic flexibility and providing a high level of sustainability. So we believe that the success of the public areas and open spaces are essential to the commercial success of the project. So I would like to share our inspiration for the building. So it's actually Santa Monica's geography, climate, and culture. So this is the historic Arcadia bathhouse. That was one of the first buildings that was built here. It's a great example of the indoor-outdoor Santa Monica lifestyle. As you can see, the building and the landscape have a strong connection, and the interior program literally spills out onto the beach. So programmatically, our goal also in 4th and Arizona was to create interaction between indoor and outdoor environments, as almost literally like this. So every program has some kind of interaction to outside and to the public space. So programmatically, the typical solution to the site, like 4th and Arizona, would be like this: different buildings with different program facing Plaza. Or this, where you have one building with big open space or park, but then in this case, you can only activate one level to interact with a landscape. So we chose a much more integrated approach that creates more points of interaction between the interior and exterior by providing a series of iconic plazas and terraces like this. So conceptually, the design is like an unhinging of a stacked bars, like this. It's a kind of historical example or mythical example. Another inspiration was this building, the Hanging Garden of Babylon. You know the Tower of Babylon, which is a symbol of the tower, but this was a monument for the ground, basically a building that is literally covered by landscape. So this kind of approach that allows us to provide open space that actually, this is a site area, exceeds the available footprint of the site. So the public area that we're providing exceeds the existing site area. So you can see, and this is the area, the roof top view, roof plan, we call it. So you can see here that the whole site basically becomes a park, a layered park. So you don't see any trace of the building. So while unique, our approach is very straightforward, actually, and is driven by an efficiency and flexibility. We have the retail component on the ground level, workspace on the second level, affordable housing and a flexible workspace on the level 3, and a hotel on the top level. And each bar of the building has distinct program, and each bar has marketable dimension and depth. So it's incredibly efficient. Additionally, the building is composed to respond to the physical environment, taking advantage of the sun path of Santa Monica and maximizing the daylight in each terraces, especially on the ground level public plaza at 4th and Arizona. So this is aerial view. You can see how the terraces continue. So it's a kind of vertical park. This is a view of the corner of 4th and Arizona currently. And this is the proposed. And we wanted to create a civic gesture at the corner with a large public plaza that is visible from the promenade and is also visible from the terraces, but also having some green space on the ground. This is a view looking south from Arizona, and this is the proposed. And here we wanted to create a bold yet sensitive frontage by facing Arizona and also stepping back the mass to minimize the shadows and maximize the amount of light and air to the Arizona Avenue. This is the view from corner of 5th and Arizona. You can also see how the green space also defines the ground level plaza. And we wanted to create a community destination. We believe that this project will be the blueprint of how commercial development and public space can be successfully integrated. Again, a view. Now I will explain the progression of the building starting from the ground floor. Typically, retail is built out to the edge of the site, like this. However, this actually does not optimize the visibility necessarily. Through the rotation of the building bars, we increase the number of visible retail faces, as you can see, and significant portion of the retail will be neighborhood serving. So you can see the function and the plaza actually work together. This also creates 5 east-west passages across the site, taking advantage of the big block that we occupy, including a bicycle lane along the south edge and the connection between the post office and future cinema. And the area in purple denotes the retail uses, and the area in red is a cultural space that will house a children's museum, and the bike center is showing in gray. Tiffany will go through the landscape, but very quickly going through them. So this is a ground level. As you can see, the view from 4th and Arizona, the ground floor bar is rotated to frame the main plaza. And adjacent to the outdoor plaza is a permanent indoor marketplace for artisanal food and craft vendors. So there's a continuity from the plaza into the first bar retail. This is a view of one of the pocket parks showing the passage from 4th to 5th Street. So this is on the 5th side. And this pocket park will act as an entry and outdoor space for the children's museum. Here we have the interior of the museum, which is illuminated by a large skylight and offers 12,000 square feet of community educational space. There is an atrium adjacent to it too, and it serves as a space for exhibition and funnel for natural light. The main plaza will also be a venue for public events. The upper terraces and balconies of the building function as an audience balcony for performances. But obviously there's an ice skate rink that is also integrated, which will be explained by Tiffany later. Directly above the ground floor retail is the 3-floor workspace bar. The workspace floors can support a range of layouts, and in this example, for more flexible function, it can attract local and creative industries. Here we see the workspace level cafe spilling out onto the first terrace, so there's always a continuity. And the upper workspace floors are wrapped by balconies, offering another scale of indoor-outdoor interaction. The next bar consists of 48 affordable housing units and flexible creative workspace. This bar is flanked by large terraces to the north and south. Here's an image of a northern terrace, the only fully private terrace in the project. This is a view of the southern covered terrace. It can accommodate cultural events like a film screening or charity galas. The top bar of the building is a hotel, as I said, and the linear hotel lobby is oriented towards the terrace and has great views to the mountains and beach. And this terrace is available to the public whether or not they're the guest of the hotel. Above the hotel, above the lobby are the hotel rooms, which also enjoy dramatic views and balconies. Here's a view of the hotel room. And finally, we have the roofed deck. It is also publicly accessible. Now I pass it on to Tiffany for landscape.
Thank you, Sho. I'm just going to take a second to walk you back through, the open spaces once more. I want to take a minute to explain this slide. One of the things that Sho mentioned earlier is the idea that we're basically taking the concept of a park and pulling it up and over the building. And each of these programmatic bars give us an opportunity to create a unique landscape experience. So on one site, we have many different types of landscape experiences, and that's what this diagram is meant to elicit. Once again, this is the way that the terraces break down. The ground level and the first elevated terrace are fully public, and I'll walk you again through the perspectives and explain the way that they connect, both visually and physically. The bar that's rendered in dark green is the only private outdoor terrace, and it's shared by the residential tenants as well as the office tenants in that adjacent architectural bar. And then the top two spaces are adjacent to and on top of the hotel, and they're available to the folks at the hotel and also to people who want to come and just enjoy the views, both on the second and third elevated terrace. Just to give you another image, the bird's eye or the rooftop image, you see rendered this way, each piece of park has a different feeling, a different geometry. We envision that they'll have different plant palettes. What exactly they are, we haven't worked that out yet, but they are intended to feel different one from the other. And so again, I do want to comment on this, that some of the feedback that we've gotten in the meetings that we've had with you all over the last few months was that everyone was really looking for this lower level plaza to be more green. And we took that very seriously. And so these are some images that start to represent the way that we're reacting to that. We actually think it's a great improvement. We have a space that's left at the corner of 4th and Arizona for that large civic space, and also accommodates the ice rink. That's an important programmatic piece on the site. But as you move from west to east, there are a variety of garden spaces sort of giving that sense of park-like enclosure. This is another image of the wintertime. The wintertime experience. Does this have a pointer? Oh, this isn't really going to work for me. But you can sort of see, looking up on that first elevated terrace, there's a visual connection between the ground level and that first terrace, as they're both completely publicly accessible. So this is an image up on that first terrace. You can get up there. There's a spiral staircase that takes you up from the ground level plaza. There's an escalator, an elevator directly. It goes actually all the way from the parking below all the way up, and you can see it, and we'll have a rendering later that gives you a sense of that visual connection from the parking. But what we intended with this terrace was to provide a different type of programmatic possibility. So we're seeing a lawn panel, we're seeing, again, some more lush gardens, so that this terrace can be a place where we might have slightly quieter programs. We're showing yoga, Mommy and Me, these kinds of things can happen in tandem with the things that will be happening on the ground level open space. The next level up, this is the terrace that's adjacent to the housing component and office component. This is, again, a private terrace. It's meant to be very quiet, quiet space for folks in the residences to come out and enjoy, or for people in the offices as well to come out. We start to get some really incredible views as we move up to this level of the building. And moving one more, we're up at the level of the hotel lobby. Here at this point, we're seeing the ocean. We want this space to be very festive and lively. Again, this is a completely different feel horticulturally. Each terrace different one from the next, but allowing for programmatic flexibility throughout the entire landscape. And then finally, at the very top, we have this concept that there may be able to be a very thin skim of water that reflects the sky. The views up here are going to be absolutely breathtaking. So we're looking to just really dazzle the visitor as you move up to the very top of the building. And I think that Matt is going to take over to talk about programming.
Thanks, Tiffany. Let's start with our goals for the public spaces. We want spaces that are active, dynamic space that provides for free daily amenities, and a diverse mix of free programs for the community. We want a space that is clean, a beautiful space that's well maintained and in turn treated well by members of the community. We want a space that is safe, an inclusive space that feels welcoming and secure throughout the day and throughout the week. We want a space that is hospitable, a place that can accommodate activities that don't currently have a home in Santa Monica. We want a space that is dynamic, a place that is flexible enough to accommodate new and interesting uses. We want people to stay in downtown Santa Monica. We want them to use this space. I'm going to move to the next slide here. Here's just a diagram illustrating some of the possible uses that we've imagined would go on in here. And again, I say possible because at this point, we have not had enough of a process with the public and with different constituent groups to understand exactly what the uses and programs are that are going to be functioning in this park. For us to be successful here, we need to understand who's going to use these amenities, who's going to participate, what classes and activities and programs are going to work. Until we really start asking people questions, have workshops, we can estimate rough uses that might go there. But we need feedback from you and from everybody else in the community to understand. Our goal is to achieve broad and sustained participation from the community in these programs. We want to appeal to a wide cross-section of the community. It's not just one group that we want to be participating. We want everybody. We want a diverse mix of programs accessible to many different constituencies at different times of the day, the week, and the year. We want to foster a sense of community, and we want to engage with our local nonprofits, cultural institutions, and business. So outreach is obviously key to this. If we don't outreach, our programs in the public spaces do not work. We'll need an advisory team. We're going to ask a lot of you to join that advisory team and to help us ask the right questions, find out who should be in the room answering questions. We need to form partnerships with local groups, nonprofits, for-profits, cultural institutions. We'll assess the feasibility of the programs, but the bottom line is if people say they want programs in large numbers, they'll be successful programs. We obviously have a preference for local stores, setting up booths during holiday marts, local nonprofits, cultural institutions, and businesses in general. Once we've opened this up and we have activities and free programs, doesn't necessarily mean it works. There's some stuff that may need refinement over time, fine-tuning. Some programs that are popular now, we might think that yoga is going to be very popular and have huge appeal to people. Maybe something new will come along that will attract more people. So again, we need an advisory committee to be functioning over time. Our process, we conduct public forums and outreach events. We have surveys, focus groups. We reach out on social media. And we need to make sure that every group is listened to. It's not just a few groups who speak the loudest. We need to hear from everybody. And actually, here are a couple images from our existing parks that we manage. These are just examples of different kinds of programs that you might see. Some basic amenities, Wi-Fi, bike parking, activities, nice seating, comfortable places for people to be. And again, active uses. These are things that will draw people to stay here for a little while, not just to park and walk out, but to enjoy it. It's a public amenity. These are free activities and programs. Some of the uses are active. Some are quiet, allowing people to take lunch and sit out there. Programs obviously oriented to families. Everyday pursuits. And of course, seasonal events. And we'll do some large events in coordination with downtown Santa Monica. In terms of, in terms of operations and how to make this really work, my firm is often engaged to deal with a problem park. It's a park that's been abandoned, that nobody's paying attention to, that doesn't have funding, where there's crime and gangs and drug problems. Here we have a unique opportunity to plan this from the get-go. We have park hosts who provide a friendly first impression and they help coordinate events and activities. We'll have rangers on site who maintain a sense of fairness and security. Our maintenance and horticultural specialists will keep the spaces clean and beautiful. Our program staff lead classes and activities. Our advisory committee, it's a key part of this, provides ongoing community input to ensure the success of our programs and activities. There'll be a board of directors to oversee the nonprofit, and currently we project an annual operating budget of $860,000. And again, there's going to be coordination, continual coordination with downtown Santa Monica, the public library, the farmers market, and other community partners. With that, I'm going to pass it back to Sho to talk about sustainability.
Very brief recap of sustainability. So the project will incorporate significant sustainability features, including those points. So basically the sustainability will be fully integrated into the building from the initial design through the daily operation of the project. So we will achieve LEED Gold in shading and natural daylighting, natural ventilation and passive cooling, stormwater absorption, and gray water recycling. So the building form itself actually triggers all these or integrated the sustainability goals. Also, sustainability and transportation is very related. So our design capitalizes on a downtown Santa Monica's unique combination of walkability, transit, and bicycle infrastructure. The project features, as you can see, pedestrian-centric design, proximity to Expo Line and Big Blue bus lines, extensive bicycle amenities, flexible parking facilities, and aggressive transportation demand management. So the new bicycle path and alleyway will connect 4th and 5th Street in the center of the block, and sidewalks will be widened, street furniture and landscaping will be added, and a bike center and a bike station will be included. And parking at the site will be integrated into the existing public parking system downtown. Here's a rendering of the pedestrian access to the parking, or from the parking, a large atrium that delivers sunlight to all 4 subterranean levels to create a memorable arrival from the garage. So even the parking, we are intending to have an indoor-outdoor quality. And the parking garage itself is designed for maximum flexibility. It has 580 parking spaces designated for public, and it has entry to the parking from both 5th and 4th Street. So this is it for the design presentation, so I pass it back to John to conclude.
So, excuse me, our project timeline going forward is a timeline up here from 2014 from right now through 2016 when we expect to finish the approval process. So right now we're at our city-sponsored community meeting, and our next stop is an ARB float-up. And a float-up really is where we go and present a design. The Architecture Review Board they make some recommendations, we get input, but they don't make any official rulings or approvals. Then in 2015, the beginning of 2015, we do a float-up for the Planning Commission and for the City Council, and we begin our environmental process, the CEQA process, and that is the environmental impact study is what you would know that as. As that winds up, we have public hearings in 2016, and what you will see is there are numerous possibilities and numerous opportunities for the public to have input. There are all of these public hearings, public meetings, and we hope that you come. We need your feedback, and we want to hear what the community has to say. There's been a lot of community input so far in coming up with the objectives for the project, and now we need to see if we are attaining those objectives and if those objectives might be changing. Our cultural partner for on the ground floor is the Zimmer Children's Museum. The Zimmer is recognized as one of the top children's museums in the country. And so I'm just going to show this a very short video that'll give you a feel for what the Zimmer is doing. And do I need to click anything here? There we go. Nope. One more time.
At the Zimmer Children's Museum, we are playing our way to a better world. All of our hands-on exhibits and arts-based programs reflect our commitment to community responsibility, cultural diversity, and global citizenship. At the museum, children imagine that better world and learn that they have the power to create it.
Living in this crazy world, so caught up in the confusion, nothing is making sense. How to make a brighter day. What do we do?
We really think that creating a culture of kindness
will create a more compassionate society in the future. And that's a big part of what we're doing here, is creating a shared venue that kids can come together from across Los Angeles and then really take some time to play together, which is important, and also share in lessons that focus on community and understanding. And we think that that has longitudinal results that, that may not be measured in every visit here, but hopefully collectively can create a more compassionate tomorrow.
Great. Okay, our presentation has concluded, and we'll start with questions from you in the audience. And for some of you who arrived a little after we began, I just want to remind everyone, please ask one question at a time. We have a lot of people that are here tonight, and we have limited time. The library closes at 9. And again, if you feel more comfortable, there are cards in the back. Write down your question, and we can read it out loud and have it answered. Okay, and then we have Tanya over here on my right, who has a microphone, as well as Sandra here on my left, and a woman right over here in the hat. Why don't we start with her? Thank you.
Hi. The landscape designer talked about dazzling visitors. I would like to know what you're going to do to dazzle residents.
You need mine?
Is that on? I think it's on.
Should be on now.
I might have used the wrong term. I mean everyone that comes to this site, residents, visitors, anyone that comes to the site. That's what I meant by visitors. Someone coming to enjoy the amenities on the site. Could be someone that's local, someone that's visiting. I meant it should be dazzling to everyone.
Okay. Another can I?
We'll come back to you, I promise, if we have the time. In the back.
Thank you. This is obviously very impressive. I've seen it before, so I'm going to make a comment and then I have a question. The comment is that I've been a resident for over 30 years, and I started an organization years ago called Save Our Playgrounds because we don't have enough park space. I'm part of a movement in this city, and I think you will soon discover that the objectives that were defined for this project a few years ago are now going to change. And the reason for that is that we need not projects like this on public resident-owned property. We need space that is not active, that is not developed, that is not hardscape. So here's my question. My question is, I would like to see in your presentation some view of the back side of this project, the tall side.
Great, thank you. The gentleman over here in the gray t-shirt.
Well, the back side of the project actually faces a new alley in the middle of the block. And so to see it, if you were standing on Santa Monica Boulevard, you actually can't see the back side of the project because there are other tall buildings in the way. We have a model here which you can look at later. And if you want to see the back side of the project, certainly this is a 3D model. That model, you can actually see what the back side will look like. But one of the reasons the project designed the way it is the larger facade of the building is tucked into the middle of the block.
Thanks. Really impressive presentation. I just want to make, again, I'll make a comment and then ask a question. But I'm a resident of Santa Monica. I've been here about 7 years, and I'm planning to be here for a long time. And I think like I said, it's a really impressive project. It has incredibly programmed public space. And I know that we've heard this comment a few times that this should be a park because it's resident-owned land, a park with parking below. But I have a real estate background, and it's important to recognize the financial feasibility of a project like this. And our city does not have funds available for many levels of subterranean parking with a park above it. It's not feasible. What's that? I've worked in real estate investment my entire life.
Okay, guys.
It's not right. This is not about questioning me, but
we're going to stick to the questions.
That's fair.
Thank you.
But I have a question for Matt. There's obviously a difference between creating one massive park at this site and then having what seems to be the same
square footage of public space available, but having different types of public space programmed differently. Can you just talk a little bit about how how current urban design is moving towards smaller, active public spaces versus just one massive green park? Because that's what I've seen in my experience.
It's actually an interesting question. I'm working right now on a project in Portland. It's a 3-acre urban park that was the apple of everybody's eye 100 years ago. And in the last 2 decades, it's where drug dealing, crime, it's abandoned. There's nobody taking care of it. There were no activities, nothing going on in there. So actually one of the challenges there is it's almost too large without eyes on the park, without people doing positive activities in the park. I don't appreciate being hissed at, but whoever I was. But so I mean, the goal of a good, active, healthy park is for people to be paying attention to it, doing positive things there during the day, and into the late hours. I mean, keeping eyes on it, keeping it active and safe. I mean, you can have a vast, endless park in certain areas. In the Santa Monica Mountains, we have that. In an urban park, that kind of scale just doesn't work for safety reasons.
Okay, over here, this lady had her hand up for quite a while in the middle, Sandra. Yeah, right there. Sunglasses on top of your head. Yep.
Mi nombre es María Cortés. Trabajo en el DoubleTree por 18 años.
My name is Maria Cortez, and I work at the DoubleTree for 18 years.
Yo vivo en un proyecto de bajos recursos y mi pregunta es, ¿cuáles son los beneficios y los servicios para los empleados y las personas que vayan a vivir a su proyecto?
I live in affordable housing, and I wanted to know what kind of amenities you guys are going to be offering.
We are going to be partnering with Community Corps of Santa Monica, and they will run the affordable housing for us. They will be our partners for that. And CCSM provides really a wonderful array of amenities, from classes, homework classes, financial literacy classes, and there is space. We have designed space into the project, so this kind of community rooms where this can go ahead. There will also be outdoor space next to the right adjacent. It's one of the, when we talked about the one terrace that is private, a good piece of that terrace is dedicated to the affordable housing. So you will have outdoor space and the other amenities that come from CCSM.
We also received a written question with the same question for you. Will the housing be affordable? In addition to that, they had asked, will this be a union hotel? If you could address that, and then we'll take another question from the crowd.
Yeah, the housing is defined as very low-income housing. There are very specific guidelines, and that's one of the, so the rents will be quite low. There are these basically three levels of low-income housing in the state of California, and we're at the second to the lowest level, which means the rents are the second to the lowest. So it will be a union hotel.
Okay, the lady in the orange shirt over here, Sandra.
Hi. How much would it cost, if anything, to cancel this project now?
You'd have to ask the city of Santa Monica. It is a city-sponsored project, so I do not know. I do know they've invested a considerable amount in the land and are continuing to invest in that land.
Gentleman in the back of the room, navy T-shirt.
I just use a loud voice. You guys need to update your project to not include the post office, because the post office is no longer there. The post office was moved to 7th Street. So you guys who are really paying attention to all of what's happening in Santa Monica should have known that, and that should definitely not be part of your project.
Well, I think the post office was referred to, but it's actually across the street from the project. It's not included at all. So.
I understand that, but it doesn't exist there anymore. It's been moved to 7th Street. You guys
We're talking. Okay. What maybe you're just misunderstanding, or we didn't explain it well. We're talking about the post office building, not the post office. The post office building is there, and it's been It's a historic structure, so it's not going anywhere. And actually, the city asked us to be sensitive to that building. So that's what we're referring to. We're not referring to the actual physical business of a post office.
Okay, next question over here on our left.
Since it's a city project, am I correct in assuming that the 1% for arts applies here? And if so, how do you envision that planning for that happens is it happening within the project, and if so, how?
Yes, we will be paying the art fee, the child care linkage fee, all of the other fees that go with the project will be paid by this project as well. And the art budget we'll be working with the Department of Cultural Affairs as to how that art budget gets spent. We do expect that art budget to be spent within the project, and most likely in the public art out in the plaza. That's where we envision it, unless we hear otherwise.
Okay, the gentleman in the back.
Good evening. Just curious, I know underground parking is expensive to build. Those public access spaces, what's the approximate aggregate cost, and what's the benefit to the community for those?
I can't give you the cost per space because it's part of the whole building structure, but they are expensive, as you know. The parking will be run, it will be integrated into the city parking structure, our parking system in downtown. So the rates will be the same, and there will be dedicated public parking, 380 dedicated public parking spaces 24/7, and then the other spaces will flow in and out of the public system and as they are used or not used. So in other words, if you think about it right now, there's a proposal for cinemas across the street, and cinemas are non-peak uses. Our parking structure will tend to be empty while those cinemas are drawing customers. So those spaces will be available for the cinema customers, and they will be run as part of the city system.
Gentleman in the back with the blue shirt.
Good evening. Thank you for having this hearing. I don't think enough is said that this building is amazing looking, and it solves a lot of problems the city has. One thing I heard you guys say about the parking was it's minimum 300, or what? I want to know a little more about the parking, how you enter, where it's going to be in the building.
There's a total of 1,220 spaces proposed.
Oh, 12?
With entries off of 4th Street and 5th Street. Some of the parking will be longer term parking. Other the parking will be in the more transient parking supply like the current structures. As you probably know, the structure on 4th Street just south of Arizona is going to be demolished. So that parking plus additional parking will be replaced in our garage.
Okay, next question here in the front row.
I'm trying to get a total in my head of how many parking spaces will be available. The 1,200 that you're building in this building.
Yes, 1,220.
Okay, so how many residents and stores will you have, and how many people will be in there, including the tourists, on a daily basis?
Well, we expect, as any parking garage operates, there will be times when it is full at peak hours, just like the other parking garages in downtown, and there'll be times when it is not. Very roughly, about half the spaces will be available in the public supply most of the time. Well, we have 48 units, so the low-income units, depending on maybe 3 people per household, something like that. So you're talking about close to 150 people. We do not have the tenant mix yet, so we really can't tell you. The hotel generally don't generate much traffic or much parking. Most people arrive by, transport, non-single occupant vehicle transport. The people that work there, again, we have the expo line coming in, and we will have a very extensive transportation demand management program that will probably include bus passes, incentives not to drive, carpools, and it will be managed as a whole for the project. And we expect not to generate peak hour traffic, to have a net non-peak hour traffic.
We received another handwritten question from the audience. The member in the audience wanted to know more about ice skating, and is the project providing ice skating during, I would assume, the winter months?
This will function as a seasonal rink, and actually the landscape design is such that it can flood it and freeze it right in the project. We don't need to bring in the typical temporary setup for an ice skating rink. So same months that you see a rink out there right now, this will be operating.
Right here, this lady in the third row.
I've been a resident of Santa Monica for 15 years, and I started raising a family here. I have to commend Sho and Jason for their beautiful design. It's really wonderful. However, I don't believe it belongs in this city. My question and comment to John is that you noted in your presentation the key objectives and the downtown specific plan information, and I felt that that was dramatically abbreviated from what's actually in the downtown specific plan. To note, one is the difference in the stories and the height. The other is number 3, which says preserve and enhance downtown's basic urban form of 3 to 7 story buildings and diverse architecture, which you guys nailed, and that provides access to light and ocean breeze. And I'm finding that the only way that that's going to provide light and ocean breeze to anyone is if they're actually within your building or on that corner. Otherwise, it's blocking the light and ocean breeze from the residents and pedestrians. So I want to know how you're going to address that.
I thought you said, please, I want to comment. No, the way the building is designed, if you look at this design and if you compare it to other buildings in downtown Santa Monica or other buildings in any other downtown in any other city, really worldwide, it's a very porous building. The building, if you were to take the same amount of square footage, which is, by the way, what the site is zoned for, we are within the square footage allowed on that site, and were to just spread it out over the site, you'd have a big block. It wouldn't be nearly as tall, but it would actually cast much more shadow and block much more light and air. This building, with the bar in the middle of the block, if you look at the model, after we're done with the Q&A, you can look at the model here. You can see it pretty well tucks in. The buildings around it, while not as tall, are pretty tall themselves, and some of the buildings not too much, a block or two away, are quite a bit taller. So we believe that the building actually fits in, and it fits into the specific plan guidelines. The specific plan does talk about certain sites being allowed to have more height if the height provides more open space, and that's what we feel we've done.
Over here in the front row, Tanya's on her way with her microphone.
Thank you. I've been a resident here in Santa Monica for 42 years. I'm a practicing architect in the city for 30. It's going on my 31st year. The project that I see before us this evening, and I've seen it a couple of times prior, I think is not only a remarkable design, it exceeds the amount of open space that if we were to scrape the lot clean, it actually exceeds the amount of open space. I think that's a remarkable set of ideas and principles to be able to accomplish such a task. And oftentimes we think, or most people think, of north and south being along the axes of the main streets in Santa Monica, Ocean Avenue, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. It's not. We were dealt a slightly different orientation here in Santa Monica. And the north on this site is 44 degrees off of north. So what you're looking at here is a very different orientation than a pure north-south orientation. So knowing, and we do a lot of sun studies when we develop buildings, I can tell after 30 years of experience, to look at this building, the orientation, the porosity, the openness to light and air is going to be absolutely remarkable. And I think you should be applauded for the efforts that you've put forth in this particular project, and I commend you. Did I have a question? Yes. I think there's a misconception about the height of this project, and that the height was vetted many, many, many months, and if not years ago, by the city in community workshops, where we've all had an opportunity to come and address the height of this building. And what came out of this, the city of Santa Monica ran these workshops, so I'm not telling you anything that isn't public record. I'd like to know if you could describe slightly that process.
That process, it started out really as a process talking about the height on certain sites downtown, and that some sites would be allowed to go over a predetermined height limit, which at this point is 84 feet. And in return for a spectacular design and being able to generate more ground floor open space. So while it wasn't necessarily, at least initially, about this building in particular, it was about this site and some other sites. And it's, it will be seen what heights go on what sites. This is, I think it's a site-by-site question that needs to be answered. And the heights that were bandied about and that were talked about on the sites where they would allow more height, I believe we're up to 135, 140 feet. We're at 148. There are differences of opinion, but I do believe you can go back and look at the staff reports and find these numbers.
Right here in the front row.
I'm just
Sorry
wondering,
about that.
with having park level, public park levels, it looks like, I can't tell what floor it is. It looks like it's on the 4th, and then the next level is private, and then the upper level is, if I'm understanding correctly, is public. Do you have experience in other cities with doing that type of public space that is so far off the street? Is it successful? Has it been well received?
Yeah, I can answer that question in a couple parts. Olin has a ton of experience, years and years, 4 decades of experience in building landscapes over structure. So in terms of viability of the living systems themselves, we do it all the time. So I'm 100% confident that the gardens, all of the landscapes will be very viable. I think the question you're asking is socially, how do they work? I just wanted to make that point also. The reason that it will work here is because we have these amazing adjacencies. We have activation happening from the architectural building programs that will spill out. So the reason that the ground level and that first elevated terrace, you can see in the model that that first bar is the lowest of the 4 kind of chunks. And that's so that we wanted to maintain that visible connection from the ground level to that first elevated terrace, so that they feel as, they kind of work as one space, they're cohesive. And then as we move up the building, the spaces are activated more and more by the adjacent architectural program. So the hotel bar will have amenities within it that you can come and use as someone who wants to go have a cocktail or have dinner or something. You can do that there and activate those spaces as well. So yeah, we're confident that the built-in users in the building are going to activate these spaces. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
The 4th level is private.
Oh.
Been done in other cities where it's located at these heights.
Yes. Yes. I could go on for quite a while. We have projects all over the world where, not exactly like this is truly unique, but where we have landscapes on top of structure that are quite successful.
Matt, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, just certain of the programs work better, not on the main street. Like a Mommy and Me yoga class wouldn't work particularly well in the main plaza, which might be great for a farmer's market. So some of these, the different levels and the different types and characters of spaces is advantageous. I think the city of Chicago's got great examples of elevated parks. It's all over the place.
Okay, next question. Lady in the black sweater, Tanya. Thank you.
Hello? First of all, I think the project is exquisite, but I don't think the issue is whether the project is exquisite. It's whether it belongs in Santa Monica. You said you wanted to know, you wanted public input. I'd like to show of hands. How many of you think that this project's just too big? Would you put your hands up, please? That's public input. It is exquisite, but it's just too big. Thank you.
Okay, next question. This gentleman up here.
Hi, my name is Warren. I've been a resident of Santa Monica for about 20 years now. And if I was to come to the city and I saw a structure like that, it would be a destination for me. I would want to come and see it because I think it's stunning and creative, and I just love everything you've presented. But my question would be, how much revenue do you think that this would generate for the city? Because I think, when you look at the bottom line, that's what it's about. Because it's got to succeed, it's got to be viable, and it's got to be. So we all can better. But for me, like, if I just saw that in the picture, I'd say, I want to go there. Like, I'd want to go see the Gehry Museum or something because of how it looks. So it's definitely a drawing point for me, and I'd love to see Santa Monica move in this direction.
Well, so these are some of the sort of larger sources of income for the city. The ground lease that we will pay will be somewhere around $1.3 million. That's the current that has been proposed, and we're talking to the city about. In hotel transit occupancy tax, it's projected about $3.2 million annually. That's every year. The public space programming budget is a budget of the project. It's an expense of the project, so the private project pays for programming the public space. That's at $860,000 a year, current projection on that. And just the fees alone, the art fee that was mentioned earlier, the child care linkage fee, the transportation fees, are projected to be $9.1 million. So there's considerable amount of, and these are just the major fees. There's a lot of other fees that will be generated. The taxes from the hotel taxes I mentioned before, but also the retail taxes, property taxes. I mean, it goes on and on. So it's a substantial financial benefit to the city, and the city has made a substantial investment in the property with the idea that they would have a money-generating activity on the site.
Okay, next question right here in the red shirt.
Hi, I'm
There's
Andrew.
a lot of red shirts, actually. Sorry.
So actually, I live in like a block or two away from where this is going to be, potentially. I'm interested to know, between the retail space and the hotel, first, how many jobs you anticipate this creating, and then what would you do to ensure local hiring?
Well, there will be a local hire program associated with the hotel. That is part of the expectation of the city and a part of the expectation that we have. We believe the hotel will generate somewhere between 150 and 200 union jobs. The other retail, it's really going to depend on the retail. It could run anything from a pharmacy to a cleaner to something bigger. Some people have mentioned an urban Target store. Other people have mentioned, this is their small format store. It would fit. So it really depends on the feedback we get. The nice thing there is that usually what the people want that are going to shop there and what the community wants, because of where this is. We're not on the promenade. We don't expect to attract high-level chain retail. We do expect it to be more urban, more local, neighborhood-serving type of retail. So I can't tell you on the jobs front because we don't know the retail mix, but we do know that the hotel, given its size, would generate that kind of jobs.
Okay, next question, gentleman here on my left.
Thank you. Just like this gentleman over here said a little while ago, if you were to come to this city and
look around, you'd see this and so beautiful, you'd want to be here. And I think that's true. I love this, looking at it. But more importantly, I think it's important that the whole public space arena be programmed and be actively monitored, because I think listening to a lot of people here talk about the fact that they want to have community space, this fulfills it. And I think it's done in such a great way. As long as it's programmed in such a way that people are being monitored, you can't just be able to roam around and not have something to do. I think activation is important. So my question is, what has been done? I know we've seen some slides about possible activation, but I think if we could talk about that a little more, I think people would get more comfortable with the fact that we don't want just another park that is just sitting there, I don't think. I think you want something that's going to be a little different. Just like all of Santa Monica, we want to bring in different venues and different things, and this is just a great looking, and I think if it's activated, the public can really enjoy it as well, and I think that would satisfy a lot of people's concerns. So my question is just that.
I'll hand this over to Matt in just a second, but the plan is, the way this is set up, is that there will be a nonprofit organization that will be formed to just run the park, and that will be its task. And it will partner up with local, like the Cultural Affairs Department, Downtown Santa Monica, some of the other groups, senior citizens groups, the schools, and that's how it will be. That's and that's an ongoing organization. And the building, the development, has committed to a budget to run that, and that's the difference. If you think about this, the city did just build a beautiful park not too far away, which is Tongva Park. So this park is a different kind of park. Tongva Park is a pastoral park where you can go and sit. It's beautiful, but there are no activities there, and it's specifically designed that way. This is quite a bit the opposite, and I just have Matt talk a little bit about some of the programming.
You know, we'll need obviously public input on exactly what the specific programs are, but it's going to be a range of stuff. Arts, literature, oftentimes we'll put a public library outside in the park, fitness classes, cooking demonstrations, markets, a pretty broad range. Sometimes smaller things that appeal to small groups, like knitting classes tend to be pretty popular. Meditation is often a bigger activity than you'd think. Food brings people all the time. So food fairs, food events, free food always brings people, yeah. but that's, and general amenities, things like Wi-Fi, comfortable places to sit, do your homework, relax, read a book. Those are generally the kinds of amenities that we'd imagine in a place like this. But we really need to survey people to find out exactly what amenities and activities they want here.
The majority of people that went to that community workshop had asked for. And I think you've done it in a sensitive way. I have two questions, but I am glad it's a union hotel. I'm glad you're working with Community Core. I'm glad there's going to be activities. I want to ask two questions. The ice skating rink seemed like it was the most popular thing at the workshop. When that's open, will anything else have to shut down when that's open? I hope not. And the other thing is, along with the community benefits for childcare and art, is there a possibility that community benefits would help to maintain our nearby parks like Reed Park and Palisades Park and Tongva Park that need ongoing maintenance? Is there any community benefits that could be allotted for that with this project?
I think some of the parks and rec fees that get paid would go towards that. That's up to the city. And as far as the ice rink goes, Matt,
definitely some of the music events. I mean, I would anticipate we're going to have musical events and groups, and some of those larger events won't be able to happen at the same time. Yeah, but and some of the larger markets will not be. The museum will be active. Yeah.
One thing that we're not mentioning here that's that will really be part and parcel of the outdoor space is the Zimmer Children's Museum. There's a park along the 5th Street side that they will have and control, and when they're open, there will be activities in that park that will flow right into that museum. That's a 12,000 square foot museum. It's a large space. They are wonderful operators. They have a wonderful reputation. And so I just want to make sure that people, it's not getting mentioned because it's not outdoors, but it's a big public amenity that will be used, and they tie into the schools, they tie into the faith community. They're really, it's a wonderful group.
Okay, we have a written comment. Comment and question. Since the project began a few years ago, our patience and tolerance for massive development has diminished. We own this land. This land is our land. Construction has not begun. We have not surrendered our right to know and to be heard. We want to know what the people's alternative would look like. We want to know what a park what a park would look like and how it might benefit the downtown area. You will be willing to give us a rough proposal for a park, a union hotel, and affordable housing.
The proposal we have put forth is based on what we were directed and what we saw in the community workshops and going back through all the staff reports. And we believe that the mix that we have proposed works very well. Some of the elements of the mix in the project support other elements. As you might guess, the affordable housing does not support itself. Obviously, the hotel does. The other uses, the retail uses, do more than just bring income into the project. They activate the square. The cafes activate the square. There's a reason for this mix. It's been very carefully thought of. The workspace use, the creative workspace, again, they activate during the daytime. Hotel more at night. The retail, depending, more on the weekends sometimes. So that's the mix, and that's what we have put forward.
Okay, next question. This gentleman over here.
Yeah, actually, really quick question. Is it a typical thing to promote or use the term park and open space and green space for rooftop gardening, or is that like an unusual? Because I've never really heard someone call rooftop gardening or landscaping a park before, and I think the kind of open space, if you were at the community meetings, I think we were thinking of more like from the street level, you'd see like an open space. I'm just wondering, is that something you guys do, or is that a typical thing?
I think you will find there are elevated parks all over the world. The most recent example is the High Line in New York, which is completely elevated, built on old railroad tracks. And I think, no, I think it has more to do with how the space is used. And if it's open to the public and used by the public, it's usually called a park. If it's private, it's often called. And this is very similar, and the way this park will operate is very much like a European town square. And yeah,
please keep your comments down. Let them
this is
answer.
actually, this is how we expect it to operate. This is why it's being programmed. So we could quibble over what you want to call it, but I do believe it will be used as a park.
Next question, gentleman in the black jacket in the middle of the room.
So I appreciate the complexity of design and how you've tried to fit every single bell and whistle in that our city council has asked you to fit in. John, you've done a great job with that. However, a couple of notes for you. One, I hope that the gentleman who said, wow, this would be a great tourist attraction, I'd love for you to walk 3 blocks further west and see something called the Pacific Ocean. Because we happen to have an ocean. We have a tourist attraction. It's natural. We don't need a 12-story building on public land at that corner. It's public land. Our citizens own the land. Whether it's a park or we satisfy everyone in the red T-shirts and we build a small hotel there, that's fantastic. But you know what? It has to be first and foremost our community's vision. And our community right now doesn't want a 12-story cantilevered building on that space, because when you look at it from mid-block, from 4th Street, you're going to see that full 12-story mass. It's not going to be pretty. And, you know, my question is...
What's the question?
Well, our friend, the architect up front, didn't ask his question for 7 minutes. So, or excuse me, 8 minutes. So, you know, I think we really just have to think as a community whether or not we want a 12-story, another creative office space there. Because honestly, strip the office space to begin with, because that's traffic inducing. That's traffic causing, and we can't take the traffic downtown. And you know what? We don't need another tourist attraction downtown. Let's work on something. You know, you gave us an alternative proposal, John, but you gave us the worst looking alternative proposal you could. And I know that Rem Koolhaus Architects could give a fantastic proposal. We'd love to see a new proposal using less than an acre of land for the buildings, a small hotel, small apartments, maybe a restaurant, or some actual neighborhood serving activity, which we don't have downtown. And then I'd like to see what you could do with that. I think someone else asked, what could you do about designing a park? How could Koolhaus actually design something that isn't 12 stories or 50 stories or 75 stories tall?
All right, let's have the project team respond. Excuse me, before you respond, can we keep the applause to a minimum? We're trying to move through a lot of questions this evening. Thank you.
Yes, I think we believe this is a wonderful response to the site and to Santa Monica, and we believe the mix works very well together. So I just want to reiterate that this is a there's been a lot of consideration that went into this, and we believe that this project, as proposed, is a good project and an excellent project for the site and for the city.
Gentleman in the back row, Sandra, in the red right here. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I'm a 25-year resident of Santa Monica. This looks to me like an iconic project in much the way the Disney Concert Hall is, the kind of architecture and design that Santa Monica deserves, and frankly, I haven't seen here before. I think it provides incredible amenities to the community, the public parking spaces, the public spaces, the museum, the affordable housing, and still manages to produce a project that has a chance of working. I commend you for it. My only question is, can you talk a little bit about I think you mentioned rangers or other people that would sort of activate the parks or help with the activation of the public spaces?
Yeah, so in the park we have park hosts who are uniformed staffers of the park who welcome people, answer questions. How do you get to the promenade? How do you get to the ocean? How do you get to the library? They're there sort of also to help set up activities. And there are rangers who are also uniformed. They're not sworn police officers, but they're there to break up scuffles and essentially serve as a direct conduit to the police should something come up. But generally, the presence of them serves to diffuse situations before they arise. So they're park staffers, they're uniformed, they're there to serve people, and they set the tone, and they set it as a safe environment.
Lady in the black shirt, Tanya, thank you.
Hi, good evening. I was here for the last meeting, and as I said, I'm a new transplant to Santa Monica. I moved here from New York about 2 years ago, and this is my neighborhood. I live Arizona and 6, and I don't need this in my neighborhood. We have enough noise, enough pollution, and we have enough retail, and we certainly have enough hotels. They're not all filled to capacity. What we do need, and then you're taking our city by the sea and making it a megatropolis or something. We don't need that height down here. What we do need is something for the children, a museum, a playground, some sort of daycare school, and parking. Not subterranean, something just to manage what's going to be affected with something for the community, not this mega nothing for us. Thank you.
Right over here.
Hello. Is this on? Yeah. I'm a resident of downtown Santa Monica. I'm about a block and a half away from this project. I have 2 elementary school kids. And so I just have a few questions. Will there be, I think it looks great. Are there going to be any 3-bedroom apartments in the building? 1. Number 2, is there going to be secure ground floor bike parking for my bike and their bikes? What drives me nuts about the building I'm in now is the bike parking is subterranean. So it makes it a pain to go down, get the bikes, and come back up. And also for the traffic management, I would just like to see, it's probably included, but it wasn't really mentioned, will there be incentives for employees to bicycle to work at this building? Thank you.
First off, all of the residents will be subsidized low-income residents. So I don't know your particular financial situation, but if you've got 2 elementary school kids and a job, you probably wouldn't qualify. But as far as the bike parking goes, we're putting in an alley that will bisect the block. So it'll go from 4th to 5th Street in the middle of the block. That has a full bike lane in it. And the bike center is right off of that. So that's the plan. There will be some of the bike parking will be subterranean for the people that work there, that commute to work, because they'll go into the garage, they'll park, and they'll take their elevator straight up to their job. And so that's the way the bike parking works. There will also be a bike share station out on the Plaza side, where you can pick up a bike, ride it somewhere else, leave it there, and then pick up a bike like they have in Paris and they're doing in New York now. And as far as incentives, yes, we expect to have very strong incentives to bicycle, to arrive any way but in a car.
Okay, next question. This lady right here.
Hi, I'm a local Santa Monica resident and live here really for the open spaces and the parks and everything we have, and I absolutely love the project. I think it's great for the city, just to say that. And I'm just wondering, what is the approval process like? How soon will we be able to know that this is really the way it is going to be and we can move forward with it?
The library will be closing in 30 minutes. The second floor restrooms will be closing in 15 minutes. If you need a library card, please go to the customer service desk now. Once again, the library will be closing in 30 minutes. The second floor restrooms will be closing in 15 minutes.
So any of you that have books, you'll need to
Go return
check
now.
out quickly. Now I've forgotten the question. I'm sorry.
Approval process.
Oh, the timeline. Yes, it's probably we're looking at 2.5 years. The approval process. It's a long process. There are a number of public hearings. There are meetings where anyone can speak, either support or against, and council people will be listening. So that's the timeline. It's about 2.5 years, and that would be before construction started.
In the back, lady in the black sweater.
Hello. I was raised in Santa Monica, and I think this is a phenomenal project. I'm a newly married couple, and as a couple who plans on raising a family in Santa Monica, I think this is phenomenal. And everybody else asked the questions that I had, so I'm good. That was my only comment. Thank you.
Okay, next question, the gentleman against the wall.
Been living in Santa Monica for 17 years. Before that, I grew up in New York City, and this is, we don't want to be New York City, but the kind of experience this can offer to address the woman who talked about, the need for parking. This is over 1,000 parking spaces, the Children's Museum, et cetera. And also, I want to talk about the connectivity to the rest of the city, where we're building this great transit experience. And I happened to bump into Mayor Villagrosa yesterday. He said, I'm commending you and Denny Zane for this. And he said, it really matters where the housing is, what's going to create activity around the transit stops. And this is one that can do that. I have a question for John. John, how much does the city pay for this land? And how do you figure the return on investment if you think they get several $1 million a year from taxes and so forth?
I believe the figure is around $30 million. Is what the city paid for the land. So, and they have, invested more since, I believe, in just some of the improvements. Although most of the improvements that have been invested are temporary improvements because they know something is going to be developed on the project. As far as the return on investment, It's a little hard to figure here because this is a city-sponsored and really a partnership with the city. So a lot of these community benefits, there's millions of dollars in community benefits on an annual basis that come in, and community benefits and taxes. So I couldn't give you a return on investment number, but it is one of the reasons the city has looked at this in this particular way. This is a way for a project to fund community benefits on an ongoing basis, going all the way, forever out into the future, as long as the project's there.
Next question in the second row here.
Hi, my name is Melanie. I recently moved to Santa Monica, and I moved here for the reason why a lot of people move here. It's a beautiful city with open beaches and a progressive community that have a shared set of values. But as a young person that moved to Santa Monica, I've recently felt a little bit conflicted about my decision. Sometimes I feel that there aren't a lot of venues for me to go to. I wonder, I often lament the lack of patio space or rooftop space to enjoy a beverage, since, though this isn't the highest rooftop bar I could drink at in Santa Monica, I think that might be the Huntley. I was wondering, what type of programming will you have for young professionals who need an accessible happy hour drink at this spot?
John, we'll let you answer that.
Yeah, we may all need a happy hour drink after this meeting here. No,
okay.
That will be the hotel will be the venue. They will have their food and beverage venues like most of the other hotels do. And you'll see this in, again, every city around the world. So the nice thing here is these decks are available to the public. If you just want to come up and have a cup of coffee, if you wanted to come up and just walk around, you will be able to do that. If you want to, partake of what the hotel has to offer, cafe next to, in the lobby or right on the, at the rooftop next to the reflecting pools, you can do that too.
Next question, gentleman in the back row.
Yes, hi. I actually work for Chase, and I am one of the buildings that's going to be affected by this at 1333 4th Street. I also work with a lot of employees that will also be affected by this. Just wondering about if the retail spaces that are going to be affected by this, if they're going to be actually allowed to go back, and if that's kind of in the plans.
I can tell you we are meeting with Chase next week. So there will be ongoing conversations as to where that branch is relocated to. I'm sure it will. I don't know whether it will stay in the project, whether Chase wants to be in the project, or whether it would be down the street or around the corner. But from what I understand from Chase, there is not a plan to get rid of that branch.
Okay, next question, this gentleman here in the second row.
Like a lot of people, I'd like to make a comment addressing an issue, and then I have a question for you. The comment is about this whole issue about public space, because it's a very serious issue. And as somebody who's worked on the open space and element of the general plan 20 years ago, and has really seen the parks in Santa Monica expand, and really hopes that we build a nearly 200-acre park that won't have to have all this programming in it that can work. I just want to say that it's extremely difficult to pull off a grass park in a place like this. What you need to look at is Reed Park. Reed Park is a very problematic park, and it's in a really very similar situation. The park that Ed Hunsaker gave me this thing in Boston to look at as an alternative, it's described as to provide the front yard for some of Boston's biggest, or whatever, I don't have my glasses on, Class A office buildings, and you can see that it's surrounded by much taller buildings than we would want to have. I grew up in Center City, Philadelphia. You have one park that works, Rittenhouse Square, that works. You have another park that doesn't, Washington Square. I'll get to the question in a second. But the point is, that it's really hard to do this, and this is a location, and I have my office for 20 years a couple blocks away. It's very hard to pull off this, and you need this kind of programming. Now, my question is, I asked this at City Council, and I haven't heard anything more about it, are you looking at, and will the city process require you to look at, the possibility of changing some of this office into more residential? Could be market rate or whatever, because you have to make money from it. But although I don't think we've actually built any office since the Von Tilburg buildings a couple blocks away for 20-some years in downtown, we do have an oversupply of office generally in Santa Monica, and I'm wondering if you're going to look at the economics of that.
Well, certainly if the council directs us to, we will look at it. What I can say is, as you said, no office has been built in downtown in, I think it's more than 20 years, any sizable office. And certainly there is demand for it now. There's a very strong office market currently in downtown Santa Monica. We feel that the mix we have is a good mix, but if we are asked by council to look at a different mix, we would look at that.
Okay, we received another comment from the audience. This building is beautiful, but it has the same problem as Heinz, too big and too much traffic. We know how that turned out. Listen to the residents. Our next question will be this lady here. Tanya, thank you.
As we're in the middle of a severe drought with no end in sight, where do you propose the water would come from?
As we work through the details of the way that this building is going to function, the hotel, the office, these architectural functions generate a great deal of gray water that can be harvested and reused into where we will need irrigation. That water can be reused into those systems. So as the details of the building progress and we learn more and more about exactly how it will get put together, we will be constantly adjusting our approach to the landscape, the species selections, the mix of those plants, in order to make sure that we remain responsible. It's a major problem, but we do know that there will be a great deal of water generated from the building use itself that we will be able to use in the landscape.
Okay, next question, last row.
Hi, I just wanted to make a comment on the landscape that was done. I noticed that you did add the additional landscaping, and I actually think you did a really good job with that. Can you give me a comparison of how much additional landscape was added from the previous presentation that you provided?
I don't have the square footages with me, but I can get them, and if you want my contact information, I can get that information for you shortly after the meeting. I don't have the information with me right now. I apologize for that.
Okay, next question. This gentleman in the back, Tanya. Thank you.
Hi, I live a short stroll to the north from here, and I'm really excited about this project. I am a Santa Monica resident, and I'm a little upset when some people here try to speak for all of us, because I think this is great. This is really exciting, and it's very close to where I live. My question is, for those of us that live and work downtown, what hours will programming be available? Will I be able to get a yoga class in after work? How will that function?
With almost, probably no exceptions. I wouldn't imagine anything here after 10 p.m. just because there are apartments a block away. In the morning, really the earliest anything functions is about 7 a.m. Boot camp classes, yoga classes, that hour. And every day of the weekend. So.
Okay, we're going to take one last question because we're getting close on time, and we want to have an opportunity for people to look at the model before we leave. Our last question right over here.
Thank you. I think honesty and transparency is very important in this city right now. We don't want to end up like Hoboken, the city that you pointed out that you're working with, who are having problems with the governor and the mayor and all of that going on. I read the 3 proposals that the City Council looked at. The proposals were asked for 84 feet. You did not mention that in what the community asked for. The community in their meetings were very clear they wanted 84 feet. The top was to be 108 feet. But the 2 proposals that were the local people who were very friendly with the City Council members came in, one at 148, I believe, and the other was 130 something. And then there was a third one that came in with 112. I would like to know why you did not say that. It was a very important part of the community meetings. And I also have another question for the lady over there. Ice rinks need at least 32 degrees to freeze. And you can't skate even the one that they had here during the winter, because on sunny days it was unskateable. So I just want to know, though, I want to get back to that. Why did you not come in at what was required or asked for at 108 feet, and that 108 feet, the top part, was only to be for the public and public viewing? So please answer that question.
Yeah, I'd have to look back at the proposal. I do not remember a specific limit of 108 feet. I do remember some recommendations of various footages. I can say that none of the proposals that I know of, they were all in the 130 to 100. One was 120, but they were similar in height and similar in number of stories. So I don't think anyone came in at the number you're talking about. It might have been 112. And if you looked at that proposal, I don't believe there were very many drawings. I don't believe it was a fully finished proposal.
Okay. With that, I just want to thank everyone for attending this evening and appreciate all your comments and your feedback. If you would like to make any additional written comments or sign up for additional information about the project or various milestones, there's cards in the back. Thank you.
Also, one more thing. We do have a website. It's theplaza@santamonica.com, just spelled out. And you can go there, you can look at the drawings, and you can see more about the project. Thank you, and the models are up front if you care to look at them.